Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So what does it take to become financially free? Well, in this video, we're gonna learn how you can turn your income from this all the way to this, and then maybe even to this. And to answer this question, we're gonna be using a framework called the ladders of wealth creation. This is a concept that my friend Nathan Barry came up with in his 2019 blog post that went absolutely mega viral on the internet and really changed the way that I also consider wealth building, making money, financial freedom, all that fun stuff. Now here is what the 4 ladders of wealth creation look like. Ladder 1 is where you make the least money. Ladder 4 is where you make the most money. And you can climb as high as you want on any of these ladders, but some of these ladders are ultimately just a lot taller than the others. So when trying to build wealth, a lot of people try to jump from ladder 1, where you are trading your time for money, straight to ladder 4, where you are building and selling products. But this can often be a mistake because the skills you need to climb ladder 1 are a fraction of what you need to climb ladder 4. And the thing I love about Nathan's article here is that he shows you all of the skills you need to develop at each step of the ladder to eventually make your way to ladder number 4. Ladder number 1, time for money. This is Sarah Blakely. Now, Sarah started her first business in 1990 when she was just out of high school. She charged $8 to babysit kids for a few hours at a local Hilton hotel while their mums and dads tanned. Fast forward to 2021, and Sarah's company Spanx, which is a clothing company that makes underwear and leggings, was valued at $1.2 billion. And what I love about this story, alongside literally thousands of others, is that most people who become financially free started off in ladder number 1 with some kind of hourly job. Now, the bottom rung of ladder number 1 is doing hourly work for someone, and this is where you think in terms of how much money you're making per hour, otherwise known as a wage. Now, I was at this rung when I was 14 years old and started working at a maths and English study center called Kumon. I was being paid $5 an hour to work for 4 hours a week, teaching kids maths and English and helping them with their coursework and that sort of thing. Now, generally, the next step up ladder 1 is some form of salaried work. And this is where you work for a company and you get told what your annual salary is. This is, for example, what I was doing aged 24 to 26 when I worked as a junior doctor in the UK's National Health Service. My annual salary was around £36,000 GBP, and I was working on average 48 hours a week, and I had around 28 days off per year in terms of paid annual leave. Now, you might have noticed something a little depressing, which is that ladder 1 is the shortest ladder when it comes to wealth creation. But ladder 1 is how most people make their living. And ladder 1 is the shortest ladder because it's really hard to become financially free by trading your time for money. Yes, there are a handful of professions where you can become financially free if you do trade your time for money. If, for example, you're a very well-paid software engineer, or you're a very well-paid doctor in the US, or you work in finance and hedge funds or private equity or investment banking, then yeah, sure, you're still trading your time for money, but your salary is in the millions. And therefore, if you save a huge proportion of your salary and then you put it aside into investments and you think about things like the 4% rule and blah, 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 this is basically the method that most people who are following the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early, this is what they're doing. They're trying to earn loads of money in their 20s and 30s so that they can retire by age 35. And then that to them is financial freedom. But unfortunately, if you're not in one of those high-paying jobs, it is very difficult to become financially free. And even if you are in some of these high-paying jobs, you might find that the trade-off of working in an investment bank for 15 years from age 21 to age 36, the amount of damage that does to your life and your health and relationships, from what I hear from people who are in that position, might not even be worth it when you do get to age 36 and suddenly you can retire. But anyway, when you're on ladder 1 and you're trading time for money, your growth in income will look something like this. You start off working for a company, and if you stay at the company long enough and do relatively well, then you'll get a raise. Then maybe at some point you'll get a promotion, and then you'll get another raise. And these little raises create these sort of small step changes in your income graph. For example, if I continued in my medical career, this is what my income graph would have looked like. In my foundation year 1, I'd be making about $40,000. In foundation year 2, maybe about $48,000. Then during core training, maybe I'm making $54K. And then I become a registrar, and maybe I'm making $58 to $60K. And then once I become a consultant, age 35 or above, then I'm on around about $100,000 to $150,000 depending on how I play my cards. That is the annual salary that I'm basically going to be at for the rest of my life, unless I decide to, for example, do private practice, which could involve working for a private healthcare company or starting my own thing, but that would take us to a different ladder. Now, interestingly, in the UK, if you want to be in the top 1% of earners, that is an annual salary of £160,000, which is about $200,000. So if I continued working in medicine, I'd have been around about at that salary. I would have joined the 1%, maybe in my 40s or my 50s. But however much money you're making in a job, there is inevitably some kind of cap to how much you can make when you are trading your time for money. Which kind of begs the question, why do most people stay on ladder 1? Depending on your circumstances, you might not be able to actually physically go onto ladders 2 or 3 or 4. And honestly, I think for most people who are sufficiently privileged, with all of the caveats aside, who are sufficiently privileged to have the option of moving to different ladders, but who seem to stay in ladder 1, I think a big part of it is that we just don't consider that you actually can move to these different ladders. I went through med school. It did not even remotely occur to me when I was applying to medicine that there were ways to make money other than to just get a job and earn a salary. And what it took was for me to read Tim Ferriss's amazing book, The 4-Hour Workweek, at the age of 18, to be like, oh my God, like my whole world is opened up to the fact that you can in fact make money using a vehicle other than a salary job. And there's that fun story from David Foster Wallace that I think really captures this. You might have heard it before, but 2 fish are happily swimming along and they meet an older fish swimming the other way. The older fish nods and says, "Morning boys, how's the water?" And then the 2 young fish swim on a bit and then they look at each other. And they say, what the hell is water? And for most of us, the water that we are swimming in when it comes to making money is ladder 1 of the wealth creation ladder, the idea of trading our time for money. By the way, if you were wondering about the absolutely sick background music that we've been using in this video, and in fact, every other video on my channel since 2017, that is from Epidemic Sound, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. Epidemic Sound, incidentally, is a cross between a sort of marketplace and a SaaS product, software as a service, which we're going to talk about in ladder 4 of the ladders of wealth creation. But sound design is an incredibly important part of making great videos, and we get literally all of our tracks and sound effects from Epidemic. They've got a huge library of over 40,000 songs and 90,000 sound effects that are restriction free, so you can use them in pretty much whatever way you want in your videos. And it genuinely just makes it so easy to build the perfect sound design for your content. For example, you might search inspiring soaring piano music, and then you can find stuff, and then you can click find similar, and that will make it easy to find stuff that sounds similar to that. That's how I personally find a lot of the music that I use in my videos. Their music is also professionally produced and it's all original music, and they own 100% of it as well, so there's never a chance that your videos are going to get a claim or a takedown in the future. Epidemic Sound gives you so much freedom as a creator, and it helps me avoid claims against my content, and it all remains licensed even after you end your subscription. And like I said, I've been using it for literally the last 7 years. So if you want to bring your videos and stories to life with sound, then click the link in the video description, and that will give you a 7-day completely free trial where you can start creating amazing soundtracks for your content. So thank you so much to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. So now we come to ladder number 2, which is a traditional service business. Now, when I was around 12 years old, I discovered something absolutely magical, which is that I had the ability to make money on the internet by offering services to people online. And through that realization, I learned how to make websites, I learned the basics of online like coding skills and stuff, and I advertised my services on freelance platforms where I was charging like $10 an hour to make websites for people. And that was like a major unlock, because I'd now gone from trading time for money to doing more of a service business. And this is ladder 2 of the ladders of wealth creation, which is some form of freelance service business. And it's very possible to make money like this. There are platforms like Fiverr and Upwork and People Per Hour, where anyone in the world can post themselves as a freelancer with a particular skill, and then anyone in the world can hire you to do that particular skill. It's pretty magical. Now on ladder 1, the core skill you need if you want a wage job or a salary job is essentially being reliable, performing well, and showing up consistently. Yes, of course, there are more specialist skills, like if you're a doctor, then obviously you need the doctor skills, and if you're a banker, you need the banker skills and stuff. But when you jump to ladder 2, you then need to learn a new set of skills. Now at the bottom of ladder 2, you're most likely charging for some kind of hourly work. So for example, you might be charging $20 an hour as a freelance writer, or $50 an hour as a video editor. But at the very least, you need the skill of finding clients who will actually buy your service. Secondly, potentially creating proposals for those clients and pitching for work. And thirdly, probably knowing how to price whatever your service is. And then you graduate to doing per project based work. So instead of me saying, hey, I will design you a website for $10 an hour and it will take me 10 hours, so I'm going to charge you $100, it's more like, hey, I'll charge you $200 to make your website. And then in fact, the incentive is for me to take as little time as possible in actually delivering that service, because now I'm not being paid by the hour. And then if you decide to move one step up in that particular ladder, then you're not necessarily the one who's actually delivering the work. Maybe you're selling the work, but you are hiring other people to do the work for you. And so that is what a service-based agency is, for example. If you hire a web design agency, it is very unlikely that the person who you talk on the phone to, who sells you the web design project, is actually the one writing the code and making the website. Chances are they have employed other people, either as freelancers or as employees, to do the service for them so that they can deliver the results and things can scale a lot better. And if you get to that point where you're managing a team to do this sort of service work, then you're probably going to need to learn the skills of setting up a company, figuring out things like accounting and finance and the business side of everything, and putting out job applications to hire employees to support you on what you need. These are generally different skills to what you have when you're trading time for money, because when you're trading time for money, usually you're a component in a grander system, and so you're unlikely to learn those skills, but you learn those skills as you progress up ladder number 2. Now, you can absolutely climb higher on ladder number 2 than ladder number 1, especially if you hire a team to help you provide your services, But there is also a limit to how far you can climb on ladder 2. Because most people who are freelancing or offering kind of agency-based services to clients, most of these people begin by customizing the service for each client. And this is great for the client, but before you know it, you have multiple different customers with like a dozen different requests each, maybe more, and you end up going back and forth. And it's very difficult to scale up a business that is providing such bespoke services for every client they're working with. And that's where we get onto ladder number 3, which is productized services. On ladder number 2, we have the mindset of selling a service. But to move up to the next ladder, instead of thinking that we are selling a service, we are thinking of selling our service as a product instead, hence the phrase productized services. So let's imagine that you're a video editor, for example. Even if you have no experience editing videos, you are watching this video on YouTube and you probably know a little something about like the fact that these videos are edited, for example. So what would this look like if we thought about video editing as a productized service instead of just a normal service? So you might, for example, develop a package called the YouTube Shorts Starter Kit, and you'd then define the scope of this YouTube Shorts Starter Kit. You could say this package, this product involves 1 Zoom call per month for 1 hour with the client, 10 hours of video editing work, 5 completed videos per month, 1 revision per video max, and all videos are 60 seconds or less. Then you'd put a price tag on this, for example, I don't know, $2,000 a month, and this is your productized service. It is essentially a systematic service that you can deliver for multiple clients, and you are selling it as a whole bundle, as a whole product. And if some of your clients are like, oh, but can you do long form instead, or this or that, or can you do funkier edits and stuff? You're like, no, I have one product, and I just do this thing repeatedly, and I get really good at doing this thing, which means you can then start creating systems and processes around the thing. You can now start hiring people to help you do the thing. And because all you're doing is selling one thing that has a very defined scope with a very defined product price on it, it means it's a lot easier to scale a productized service. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about this, my friend Robin Waite has an amazing book called Take Your Shot, which is basically about the process of going from ladder number 2 to ladder number 3, and you should check it out, it's fantastic. Incidentally, productized services is what another company of mine called Hey Friends does. Hey Friends is like a done-for-you productized service that helps people do YouTube, but it basically does all the stuff for them outside of filming the actual video. It's super expensive, you can check out the website if you want, but that is an example of a productized service. So I'll put a link down below if you just want to have a look at what it looks like to do productized services as a kind of YouTube agency kind of thing. Now this shift from ladder number 2 to ladder number 3 is one of the most important shifts for wealth creation. So on ladder number 2, there is a limit to how much income you can actually grow because we run the risk of scope expansion. The projects swell, you get more clients, and it starts to become too operationally complex. But ladder number 3 solves this problem because a productized service is simply a predefined packaged service offered for a set price and a set scope. So you're being super clear to the customer about what they can expect, and these clear expectations are what helps you scale a predictable model. Now, the skills that you need to create and sell a productized service are also a little bit more sophisticated. For example, you know how to write sales copy that can make a sale without necessarily you having to talk to the customer. You need to learn how to design sales pages or learn how to hire experts who can design sales and landing pages for you. You need to know how to process online payments, assuming you're selling over the internet. And you need to figure out some sort of standardized system, so systems building, to be able to deliver repeatable quality with each service. Now here, the way Nathan describes it is that the bottom rung of this ladder is fixed scope for a fixed price, which is what we're talking about. Then you might go up by selling recurring services provided by your employees. And then at the final rung of this ladder number 3, you would have recurring productized services. And that is, for example, what Hey Friends is. Now, at this point, your income curve starts to become linear rather than stepwise as it was in ladder number 1, because essentially the more traffic or the more leads you can generate for your product and the more sales you can get for your product, in theory, there is no limit to how much of a productized service you can sell. And this nuances here because if your productized service has to scale with people, then you start needing to hire more and more and more people. And then obviously you then have to require the skills of managing a large team and operations and complexity and people issues and HR stuff and all of the stuff that's associated with running a bigger business. There is sort of a cap in terms of like the people max capacity that you can personally deal with, but you can always get better at dealing with that capacity of people over time. But one of the problems is that you need to constantly have traffic. And this is actually where having an audience becomes particularly helpful. In fact, having an audience is a massive hack for any of these different ladders. And I've done a bunch of videos that you can see on the channel about how to grow your YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. But basically, if you have an audience of people who know, like, and trust you, you're way more likely to be able to drive leads and drive traffic towards your freelance business or your productized service or even your product compared to someone who doesn't have an audience. And then we come to ladder number 4, which is selling products themselves. Now, the wealthiest people on the planet typically did not get rich by selling services in any capacity. Instead, they sell digital products or physical products or software instead. Or even better, they own the platform upon which these different transactions take place. Now, when it comes to ladder 3, in theory, if you progress far enough, it sort of removes the need to talk to the customer to kind of give them a kind of customized package. So in a way, ladder 3 removes the work of talking to the customer. And in theory, ladder 4 removes all of the manual work from delivering the product because all of the work is front loaded into actually creating that product in the first place. So for example, if you sell an online course, like I do, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, then there is a stupid amount of work that goes into writing and filming and editing the course. But when someone buys the course, you usually don't need to do any additional work in delivering that course. Now, this is the ladder that allows you to climb the highest, but it's also the ladder that requires the most skills. For example, customer support at scale and lead generation and gathering customers at scale and supply chain and operations and all of that complexity if it's a physical product and shipping if it's a physical product, a bunch of stuff that generally service businesses don't have to deal with. Now, the bottom rung of this ladder is selling digital products, like what I do, which is courses and ebooks and downloadables and stuff. I've been doing this for years, made my first online course in like 2016-ish. And so for the last 8 years, I've been selling online courses in some kind of capacity. Then we come to products sold in an existing ecosystem. So instead of me selling an online course directly, maybe I could sell an iOS app on the App Store or a WordPress plugin on Envato's theme forest or something like that. Then we go up to physical products and e-commerce. So for example, keyboards and notebooks and tripods for vloggers. Tintin, can you chuck me the light mode keyboard, please? So for example, this is V1 of the light mode keyboard, which you can check out lightmode.com if you want a funky keyboard that looks nice and feels nice to type on. Then we go up to rung number 4, which is subscription software launch with some kind of consulting service. So if, for example, I was doing a consulting service that was offering Facebook ads services to businesses, that's a service-based business. But if I then had my own software or licensed software that would help them manage the ads, I could then charge a recurring fee for the software that is attached to the consulting service. Then you go up one rung of the ladder, and that is directly software as a service, where the thing that people are buying from you is software, and ideally they are paying some kind of recurring revenue for that. So for example, we are in beta at the moment of a product that I'm developing with my friend Pablo. It's called VoicePal. It's like an AI-enabled creative tool that helps you overcome writer's block. You just speak into the phone and it creates a first draft of your newsletter or your YouTube video or whatever thing you're trying to build. We've got around 2,000 beta users for that. It will launch publicly, but you can join the waitlist with a link down below if you want to check it out. It's at voicepal.me. So that's software as a service. People either have a free account or hopefully they pay for a recurring monthly revenue subscription plan and they keep getting value from the software. This is great because it means that for us to deliver the product for more customers, there's no additional capital expenditure we have to do, and the marginal cost of us onboarding a new customer is basically zero. And then the final rung of the ladder is marketplaces and social networks. So for example, Amazon is a marketplace, Facebook is a social network, Shopify is a marketplace of sorts, Uber is a marketplace. These are very difficult. I'm nowhere near anywhere near building a marketplace or platform product, but it's the final rung of the ladder. Now, climbing up ladder number 4 typically takes quite a lot of work because each product takes a lot of work to create upfront, but each individual sale and fulfillment of that sale happens without much additional effort, hopefully from the owner of the business. But ladder 4 is really where you have the potential of unlimited upside, especially in software, because you're not limited by things beyond server costs and team sizes and stuff as you scale. But you also have the potential for exponential income growth. Because if the product is good, then in theory, each sale of the product should make the next sale easier because you have some kind of word of mouth effects. And this is especially true when you get to the highest rung of the ladder with marketplaces and social networks, because the more people that join a marketplace or a social network, that creates a flywheel because then more people will want to join the marketplace or social network because the network becomes more valuable the more people you have in it. Okay, so those were the 4 ladders of wealth creation, according to Nathan Barry's blog post, which I mostly agree with. And I think it's just a really nice map of, okay, cool. These are all the different ways I could make money, and these are the different skills I potentially need to learn en route. And if some of this stuff seems completely foreign or alien to you, you can check out the blog post, I'll link it down below. And over time, as you become more familiar with this entrepreneurship space, you'll start to appreciate all of these things, and they'll start to seem a lot more like second nature. Even if right now they might seem kind of overwhelming, like, whoa, I didn't know subscription software with consulting services was even a thing. Like, what even is a service-based business? All this sort of stuff. The more you consume content and actually try this stuff out, the more the language will start to make sense, and then it becomes a lot easier to actually effectively make a plan for how you want to get to financial freedom. Now, it is absolutely okay to skip steps if you want. You don't have to go from ladder 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but it's worth recognizing that if you jump, for example, from ladder 1 to ladder number 4, you are missing out on a lot of the skills that you would have learned if you instead had built a service-based business or some kind of productized service agency up front. You'd miss out on the skills of talking to customers and being able to sell something directly. And in fact, mostly software people who go straight to building software struggle with sales. They struggle with distribution. They struggle with talking to customers. They like building the thing and they don't like selling the thing. And that's why every second-time founder focuses instead on spending loads of time talking to customers and on distribution, which would be the sort of skills that you would pick up if you tried to have a service-based business. The other way, of course, of learning these skills is to surround yourself with a community or even content of people teaching the skills. Like these days, because of all of the content that's out there about how to build a software startup with, Y Combinator Startup School and, all the podcasts around, every software company founder that I know is so plugged in to the ecosystem of content around how to build software that even first-time founders are increasingly they just know it's really obvious that you should spend loads of time talking to customers. But if you're not plugged into the content ecosystem around this stuff, you will make all of the mistakes. And I think one of the things around this whole journey to financial freedom is that every year it actually becomes easier because people who have done it are then writing books. I mean, this is not a money book, but yeah, I'm just holding it up because it's my book. You should check it out. People who have done it are literally writing books about it. They're recording loads of podcasts about it. They're making YouTube videos about it. And now you have so much content. Like this stuff would have been like a black box in the past where only with experience would you have even known that a lot of these things exist. But now there's like the map is out there. People have figured this stuff out. You can absolutely stand on the shoulders of the giants who've come before us. In fact, I did a video, which is honest advice to people who want financial freedom, which kind of speaks a lot to this. And that video will be linked right over here. That video will give you a significant boost up if you are currently feeling a little bit lost in this space, this journey to financial freedom. So check out that video over there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.